The father wound isn't just about the father. The father wound isn't always obvious. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about this topic. And a lot of women hear the phrase father wound and immediately think it only applies if they had an absent father or an extremely dramatic childhood or upbringing or a relationship that was obviously broken. But that's not always the way it works. Sometimes the father wound is really subtle. Sometimes it lives quietly underneath the surface in the way that we relate to ourselves, the way we seek approval, the way we question our worth, and the way we fear being seen, or the way we constantly feel the pressure to prove ourselves. And I honestly didn't fully understand this myself to this depth in my own life for a long time. I had already done years of personal growth work, therapy, self-reflection, studying astrology, understanding my patterns, and working on acceptance, trying to mature emotionally and see my father as a human being through the lens of my hurt. And I also believed I had largely healed that relationship. But when my father passed away, something deeper surfaced. I realized there were still places and parts of me that had quietly undervalued myself, limited myself, questioned myself, or struggled to fully trust my own voice because of that relationship and what it represented emotionally for me. Not necessarily because I consciously believed I wasn't worthy, but because somewhere deeper inside my nervous system and emotional conditioning, there were still wounds connected to authority, safety, love and validation, and being seen. It can absolutely involve your biological father, but it can also involve stepfathers, caregivers, teachers, religious leaders, family systems, or any environment where power, control, criticism, fear, dominance, emotional absence, or conditional approval shaped your sense of self. For me personally, my stepfather was an authoritarian parent who spanked us as punishment for what he deemed as disobedience, which could have been as simple as me speaking up, which was seen as disrespectful. And that deeply impacted my sense of emotional safety and what it meant to be visible, expressive, or fully myself without fear. But what also shaped me was watching the dynamic between my mother and masculine authority, watching how much power she gave away because of her own conditioning or upbringing or wounds and beliefs about men and authority and marriage and survival. And I think this is important to talk about because the father wound is often not created by one single person. It's created through systems, through modeling, through family dynamics, through what was normalized, what was allowed, and what we learned love, safety, power, and authority were supposed to look like. This is also why I believe healing this wound is so much deeper than simply blaming fathers. For me, this work is really about becoming conscious of the patterns we inherited, the beliefs we internalized, and how authority became embedded into us psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, culturally, and even physically through the nervous system. And in astrology, Saturn is one of the clearest archetypes connected to this journey, in my opinion. Saturn represents authority itself, structure, pressure, fears, responsibility, and building boundaries, inner stability, maturity, and self-trust. And depending on how we experienced authority growing up, Saturn can reflect where we feel not good enough, where we fear judgment, where we overcompensate, or where we disconnect from ourselves, or where we struggle to trust our own decision-making and choices and authority, or where we really struggle to find success in the world or our life path or purpose, whatever that means to us. But Saturn is also the path to healing because Saturn ultimately asks us to stop abandoning ourselves, to become grounded within ourselves, to develop that emotional intelligence and responsibility without self-rejection and self-judgment, and build that self-trust, to stop seeking that permission outside ourselves to be, to exist. And honestly, I think this is why this work matters so much, because unhealed authority wounds don't just affect us internally. They affect our relationships, our marriages, parenting, our jobs, our nervous systems, our ability to rest or to speak up and use our voice, and our ability to feel safe for being ourselves. And many people don't even realize that's what they're carrying. I know I didn't for a long time, but when I lost my father, it sent me on an unexpected next level deep healing journey. And naturally, I searched in the astrology in my chart. That's when my Saturn story lit up. So many things made sense, and it broke everything open for me. I felt liberated and free in a way that I never had before. This healing was assisted by many other things. It wasn't the astrology alone, but the astrology helped me make sense of it all, which I needed to really embody what I had experienced, which is why it shifted the foundation of my life and my work. I built a framework and began exploring this with other people's charts to validate and prove my heartfelt feeling that this was a key that could help many others besides myself. And it's why I wanted to begin sharing and teaching about it here. And I also finally felt safe to speak up, be seen, and share more of my story and insight. It's literally why I'm here talking to you right now. So save this video and stay tuned for more on the father wound and much more. Let me know too in the comments if this landed for you and if your story at all resonates with mine. I'd love to know. Take care, friends, and keep nurturing your astrology.